Good morning, everyone. I'm Dan Garodnick, Chair of the City Planning Commission and Director of the Department of City Planning. Welcome to today's public meeting of November 1st, 2023. Happy November. We're going to start this morning's agenda with our only vote of the day on 2852 and 2866 Webster Avenue in Bedford Park, in the Bronx. This proposal would create nearly 280 income-restricted homes and a new supermarket via the Department of City Planning's Fresh program, which brings healthy food options to underserved communities in all 5 boroughs. The site would also be close to the New York Botanical Garden and its associated Metro North station. We've also got a pair of public hearings on the docket for today. First up, the public is invited to testify on 2226 3rd Avenue, a proposal in East Harlem to facilitate a 10-story, predominantly life sciences building that would create good-paying jobs, only a 5-minute walk from the 125th Street subway station, and help advance this jobs-producing economic sector in our city. Life sciences is one of our city's fastest-growing fields and a sector we look to bolster through our City of Yes for Economic Opportunity initiative that, as you all know, just started our public review process on Monday. Our last hearing for today is regarding a project along the Whitestone Expressway that would create over 400 homes, around 110 of them permanently income restricted, on the site of Whitestone Lanes. The building would be adjacent to a shopping plaza with a supermarket, near several bus stops, and close to an underpass that would allow residents to access a DMV and a multiplex on the other side of the highway. The site would include 14,000 square feet of open public space. I will note when we are done with that, we are going to pick up with a special review session to consider the items that we had laid over for Monday, and they include 817 Avenue H, rezoning, 41 Richard Street, 1521 West 124th Street, and that's it. So with that, Madam Secretary, I'm going to turn it to you and let's get rolling.
Good morning. This is a City Planning Commission public meeting held remotely through the NYC Engage portal and in person in the CPC Hearing Room, 120 Broadway, Lower Concourse. Today is Wednesday, November 1st, 2023. I will now call the roll. Chair Garodnick.
Here.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Here.
Commissioner Benjamin.
Present.
Commissioner Bozark.
Here.
Commissioner Cerullo, I believe we have on Zoom.
Yes, here.
Commissioner Crowell.
Present.
Commissioner Dueck.
Here.
Commissioner Gold is absent. Commissioner Goodrich, absent. Commissioner Kermani.
Here.
Commissioner Madden, I believe we have on Zoom.
Yes, good morning, I'm here.
Commissioner Osorio.
Here.
Commissioner Ramprashad.
Here.
A quorum is present. The first item is the approval of the minutes of the public meeting of Wednesday, October 18, 2023.
Great. On the minutes, I make a motion to approve the minutes of Wednesday, October 18. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Great. Minutes are approved.
Scheduling. Calendar numbers 1 through 7. We have resolutions for adoption scheduling Wednesday, November 15th, 2023 for a public hearing to be held in person in the CPC Hearing Room, 120 Broadway, and remotely through the NYC Engage portal.
Thank you. On the resolutions, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Aye.
Thank
Yes,
you,
second.
Commissioner Ramprashad and Benjamin. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Great. Resolution is adopted.
The next part of the calendar is the report section on page 6. Borough of the Bronx, calendar number 8. NYBG, 2852-2866 Webster Avenue, Fresh. CD7, N240064ZAX. And the matter of an application for the grant of an authorization concerning NYBG 2852-2866 Webster Avenue, Fresh. For the adoption of calendar number 8, Chair Garodnick.
Aye.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Benjamin.
Aye.
Commissioner Bozark.
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Crowell.
Yes.
Commissioner Dueck.
Yes.
Commissioner Kermani.
Yes.
Commissioner Madden.
Yes.
Commissioner Osorio.
Yes.
Commissioner Ramprashad.
Yes.
Calendar number 8 has been adopted. The next part of the calendar is the public hearing section on page 7.
Great. Okay, excellent. Let's start this process and call the first item, calendar numbers 9 to 11.
Borough of Manhattan, calendar numbers 9, 10, and 11. 2226 3rd Avenue, CD 11, calendar number 9, C230344ZMM, calendar number 10, N230345ZRM, calendar number 11, C230346ZSM, public hearing and the matter of applications for zoning map, zoning text amendments, and special permit concerning 2226 3rd Avenue.
Great, and on behalf of the applicant, we have Richard Bass. Welcome. For 3 minutes. Whenever you are ready, you may proceed. Good to have you. Hit the button on the microphone at the bottom, at the base of the microphone. There's a little.
It's been a while. Good morning, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners. I'm Richard Bass. I'm with the law firm Ackerman. This is my first in-person hearing in 4 years, so I'm really pleased to be here. So if I'm a little rusty, you'll forgive me. This is a rezoning for a already constructed building, which is a little different than the applications you usually see. On the left-hand side of the screen is the actual building. On the right is the rendering. My client, built the building pursuant to the existing zoning, which is R7B and C46. The C46 section of the tax lot is in the special district. Now, let's see if I can do this. How do I advance this?
You have a clicker over there?
I have a clicker, but...
Sarah, would you help Mr. Bass with a clicker? There we go. Wait, something just happened.
So on the left, you can see the... What do I push? Oh, I had it upside down. Okay.
Don't worry, we'll give you the extra time.
Unknown caller.
So the site is on the northwest corner of 121st and 3rd. It's a little shy of 19,000 square feet. As I described, it's split between a R7B and a C46 and the special district. We're proposing to incorporate the R7B portion, the western 50 feet of the tax lot, into the C46 and the special district. This is to allow for life science use. Right now, life science use is restricted to 3.4 FAR. The building is built to a little over 7 FAR. We'd like the entire building to be used for life science use. To do that, we need to move the zoning line 50 feet to the west. We need to incorporate it into the special district. We need to amend the zoning resolution to allow for relief from the requirement for 3 loading berths. And then we're asking your permission to only do 1 loading berth. The building is built with 1 loading berth. We believe 3 loading berths is unnecessary for the building. It would be anti-pedestrian for 3rd Avenue. And we've incorporated into the building designed to allow for a dock master and storage within the building. So we don't believe that 3 loading berths is necessary. On the left is the existing zoning. On the right, you can see the little dotted line. We're moving the zoning line 50 feet to the west. Our lot is split by these 2 zoning districts. Again, the left is the existing zoning, the proposed zoning, and our built building is only 10 stories, 7.06 FAR, and 145 feet. Here's the site. You can see Taino Towers to the right-hand corner on the right. Our project is the majority of the block front on 3rd Avenue, but we're also, for sound planning principles, including the 3 tax lots to the north. You can see those 3 buildings.
We're going to give you a little extra time for the clicker.
So that's the building. Because I'm speaking slowly, the community board and the borough president had 3 recommendations in approval. That we use union labor. We have used some union labor in the building for the construction. We have committed to 32BJ. We will use them for the existing building. And when we have a tenant, we will invite Local 79 in to give us a proposal. In consultation with city planning staff, the rezoning action increased the FAR to 10 and the height to 235. The community board thought that was incorrect, and they want to maintain the 9 FAR and the 215 height. Since our building is already built to 7.06 and 145 feet, we have no objection to the community board's request. The last request is they wanted to exclude the 3 tax lots that we don't control. As you know, a lot of community boards object to rezoning applications that include properties that the applicant doesn't control. So that's why they asked for these 3 lots to be removed. And that basically is my presentation.
Great. Thank you very much. I'm going to start with the Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Richard.
Good morning, Ken.
So when the building was contemplated, it was just going to be a spec commercial building?
It was going to be a community facility commercial building. Under Use Group 4, Use Group 6, and Use Group 9, we could have had a mix of uses in the building. My client is in negotiations with life science users. They wanted Use Group 9 for the entire building, which is why we're doing this rezoning.
So you have a specific tenant?
We did. This application took a year longer than we had expected, and that tenant has walked. We are still in negotiations with other users, but this is the only life science building in East Harlem. We believe there's a marketplace for it.
Okay. The adjacent landowners that the community board want, whose parcels they want excluded, do they have a view about the rezoning? I
reached out to them by certified mail. We did not hear from them. There are 3 separate owners. One's a church. They're small lots. Even if they were to be bought and combined and demolished, I don't think it would create the type of floor plate that would facilitate a life science building. It might facilitate a commercial building, but right now, who's building office buildings in East Harlem?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. Let me just ask what probably is a legal question here as it relates to the loading berths and the decision to build the building with 1 instead of 3. You're seeking relief, which I think you should be entitled to here, to allow for only 1. But if that relief were not granted, what would be the impact to the building and to the development?
That is a really good question. Just for a little background, when we first met with city planning staff, the need for 3 berths was missed, and we brought it to the staff's attention that under the zoning, when we went to DOB, we would be surprised that they would say, "Oh, you need 3 berths." If the berths were denied, we would do a mixed-use building, some life science, some Use Group 4, some office.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bozarth.
I had read some of the community board's remarks, not just for union labor. I think it's great the applicant's committing to 32BJ post-construction, but or once the building's operational, but also a request around kind of local hiring strategies. Does the applicant have strategies for that?
Actually, good question. When the building was under construction, they had a office that allowed for local walk-ins for local hires. We reached out to Jennifer Rabb when she was still president of Hunter to have a relationship in the community. Walter Roberts, who heads up Hope Community, is an old friend of mine from HBD. We're working with Walter and 2 other community groups on community outreach in terms of hiring. Also, we will reach out to the high school on 116th and Pleasant to have a relationship there. So we're going to have relationships in the community that have been ongoing and will continue. As soon as we have a tenant, we'll be able to do those type of introductions. I've been working in East Harlem since 1979, so it's easy for me to do that type of outreach.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, with that, thank you very much, Mr. Bass. We appreciate your presence and welcome back after 4 years.
Thank you. I have 8 more in the chute, so I'll be seeing you all.
We'll see you soon.
Okay,
sounds good. Okay, next up is a member of the public from Laborers Local 79, Malik Lewis, who is joining us by Zoom. Whenever you are ready, we'll look forward to your testimony.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Hello.
Hello. We can hear you and see you. Go ahead.
Okay, all right. My name is Malik Lewis. As you guys know, I'm a resident of the Community Board 11. I live in Johnson Houses, and I'm here a member Local 79, as you guys know. So as a local resident, I'm here to speak about my concerns about the project at 2226 3rd Avenue. Some of the developers and contractors involved with this project have a record that is very concerning when it comes to integrity, safety, and workers' exploitation. This project should only move forward if there is a strong local hire, commitment, and union raises for the laborers on the job. I feel that if a lot of union members are on the job, it would be a better push for us, for our opportunities to be stronger. Such as myself, in my perspective, it's been way better. It's been a major change for a lot of young African Americans. I'm sorry, I get a little nervous when I'm doing these things.
That's okay. Take your time. All good.
But yeah, so I just want to say I'm proud to be a Local 79 member. I have changed a lot of views for people of my culture. It's pushing for a better society in many ways, and I support this change for the union. Like, so thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for being with us. We appreciate it. Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Lewis. We appreciate your joining us this morning and sharing your views on calendar number 9 to 11. And I will note that you are the last member of the public who has signed up to testify on this item. So I'm going to do a final call for anybody who wishes to testify in 2226 3rd Avenue. Seeing none, we will close the hearing on this item, and we will open the hearing on our next item, Madam Secretary.
Borough of Queens, calendar numbers 12 and 13, Whitestone Lanes rezoning. CD7, calendar number 12, C230091ZMQ. Calendar number 13, N230092ZRQ. Public hearing and the matter of applications for zoning map and zoning text amendments concerning Whitestone Lanes rezoning.
Great. Thank you very much. On behalf of the applicant for 3 minutes, we have Eric Palatnik. Welcome.
Good morning. 3 minutes. That's not nearly enough time to unpack this application. But I will talk fast, like the woman who wears the beef, or the FedEx commercial. The reason I'm here is for Whitestone Lanes. Whitestone Lanes is a very prominent bowling alley in Whitestone. Where else? Very well liked. Been a lot of newspaper articles about this application if you read the Daily News. This application is a testament to what could be done with the community. We've been working very closely both with the council member, who we're still in discussions with about labor issues and other discussions, as well as the courtyard deposit that I know you had questions about. But we are very well supported, I believe, by everybody involved in the application as to the core essence of the application, which is the building. And that really comes about through one of the speakers you'll probably hear later, the Community Board 7 and their Land Use Committee, who we have been in meetings with for 4 years to develop this property. The crux of the issue with the development, nobody's against the rezoning, is its location up against the Whitestone Expressway, is a Linden Place extension, which is a traffic circulation pattern. You can see kind of the curb cut for it right in front of the building. It's been the bane of everybody's existence over there for 30 years. They just rebuilt it 4 years ago. So during the design of this, the questions came up, as you might ask, why is there no commercial on the ground floor? There's no commercial because of the community discussions. A deal was struck. The commercial generates a lot of traffic. They didn't want the traffic, so that was a concession from us during the application process. Another question was made at the community board, which I'll get to because this is the whole thing, which I know you asked about, is a comparison between the as of right, the proposal, and I'm going to get to a slide here. This slide shows it. Okay, just to get rid of any confusion. These 4 columns represent what can be built and was proposed. The last 2 are what I wanted to just call to your attention. When we did negotiating and discussing with the community board, the R7A is what was certified, the turquoise one, a column, the last second from the right, and that shows you 415 dwelling units if you go down 5 or 4 notches. If you go to the right, immediately over to the right, you'll see proposed at 350. That was, again, a discussion with the community board. The community board is very car-centric. You're in Flushing, Whitestone, really Whitestone more than you are Flushing. People own cars. They want cars. They rely on the cars. And because of that, they asked to have as low a disparity between the number of apartments and the number of cars. So we increased the number of cars to 200, above what's required from 150 or 160, and, to 300, we increased it to, and we reduced the number of apartments from 350. We were 200 originally. So if you look at those 2 columns, you can see what the changes we made. We haven't made anything officially. This was just a communication with the community board. The project was certified, as you see in the 3rd column. To go back, I know you had questions about the plaza area, and let me just give you an overview of the entire development. This is at it looking as if you're in a drone above it. The building behind us is a building of the same exact size as what we're proposing. It's a Board of Ed building, arguably one of the uglier buildings in design of all time, and that's how everybody in the community feels as well. It's not really a stunner. This building is the exact same size as that building, height-wise. So that's why nobody's complaining. I'll go on just 30 more seconds, if I can.
Yes, tell us more about this.
The plaza, okay. So the plaza is subject of, I couldn't believe how much discussion the plaza created, actually. The concern about the plaza that I've heard from the community, as well as from the council member, is who's going to hang out at the plaza, who's going to end up there. And the reason they're saying that is because the current condition on the street right now is it's a bowling alley at the end of a block with a shopping center across the street, and you don't get too many people walking around in that block. So they're saying to themselves, well, what's going to happen? A lot of people live in the Bonds houses, which are right across the street. They walk through. Who's going to be hanging out in the plaza? I tried to calm everybody down a little bit and tell them that, listen, once this building is up and the plaza is created, it's going to create a whole new environment. You're not going to have the same, you have the concerns now because it's a desolate, dark corner at night. But now it's going to be developed, but people have their concerns. The community board asked us to remove it entirely. We spoke with your commission and your department, and from secret purposes, it needs to stand for open space requirements. The council members asked us to remove anything that could be used for gambling. She says that there's a common activity, and the councilwoman actually she's big into parks. She just introduced a bill yesterday, no smoking in public parks. She was on the news yesterday. It's Councilwoman Sandra Ung. And her concern here is that if you put tables and things, chairs in, you're going to get people loitering around during the day. They're going to be using the park for things that she doesn't want to see people use the park. And lest I say that she's wrong, other people in the community raise the same concern at the community board about the use and who's going to utilize the park. So the design of the park, we've come up with an alternative design that we haven't shown you here, but we can for the councilwoman. We've created it, and it shows no seating in the area, no tables in the area. Really, her concern was people might use it to gamble. I guess people play mahjong for money and whatever else they play.
Okay, so let me just stay with that for 1 second. What we're looking at here is the initial design, not the revised design. And the concept that you're considering is one that would have neither tables nor chairs anywhere in any of this public space.
That was one of the ideas that was asked of us to play out. So again, we're ambivalent on that issue, and I know there's the discussion also of the 415 versus the 350 units. As the applicant, we're really, we're happy to get the building. That's our goal here. So we're malleable with these. If the community and the powers that be feel these decisions should be cut one way or the other, we're willing to go along. We're not that opinionated on these issues.
I'm trying to think about precedents of open spaces that are not active open spaces, that have no places to sit down. I don't know if you can think of any.
I don't, off the top of my head, now that you're posing the question, I can't think of any. This is a conversation we can have further, we could engage with other people on and play it out a little bit before the next hearing if you'd like.
Yeah, I think we probably should. I mean, I understand the concern that the council member is raising, but also I think we should think about this design a little more closely. I mean, obviously we have what we have in front of us here, and perhaps also the number of units in the building might affect the activation of those open spaces as well, right?
It's all related.
The difference between the 350 and the 415 would have a material effect on how those spaces are occupied, and and the ability to keep it from being what people are concerned about, a back alley or whatever. Okay, all right. Let me go to Commissioner Benjamin.
I think I can say that I'm certainly concerned about that open space. What is the size of the proposed open space?
A little under 15,000, 14.4.
And is it possible to make it an active? Is that something you're looking at also?
You mean as far as having like aerobic space or something like that, or
aerobic space, tennis court, basketball court, anything of? No
courts were suggested. I don't know if it's necessarily a court area. It's the population that lives. Yeah, we sort of have a sedate older population living in the co-ops that are to the left, that are to the south of us. I can see your request for that. I don't think they'll be activating a basketball court quite that way, or pickleball.
But you have a new population coming in, and if you're not going to have tables and chairs where people can sit, and you're not going to have active space where they can do something, what is it, the alternative that you're
I hear your
looking at?
concern. So this has sort of been sprung on us. We had a very good plan that we came to you with originally that had it activated with seating areas, with tables, and with benches, and we have a landscape. This is the work of a landscape architect, Taiwook Cha, who's very talented, and he's getting more and more upset every time I tell him to take more of his good work out. He really likes creating beautiful spaces. So I can see your concern. I think the only thing I can say is let us talk to people a little bit more. We'll go back to the council member, and maybe we can come up with something finite to present back to you in the next 2 weeks. That's something that the council member likes, that addresses, I'm hearing your concerns, to keep it activated, both yours and the chair's.
And as I said, with the senior population, certainly pickleball is the fastest growing sport for seniors, so that might be a way to...
They just opened pickleball across the street. I saw. I came in off the subway, and there's a pickleball court downstairs, right off the subway.
So you might want to think about something like that.
Okay.
And as for the reductions, how does the reduction from 415 to 350 affect the apartment sizes and unit count?
It would be just as you would think. I don't have the exact comparison for you, but it does drop the number of course, the number of apartments. It lowers the number of smaller apartments, studios, and one bedrooms. It increases the amount of 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms.
And how many would that be?
I don't have in the revised. I'll get the revised numbers. We did the numbers. I realized that this morning when I was preparing. We gave you the numbers for the proposal breakdown as was asked, but we didn't give you the revised. I'll give you that.
And the community board also asked about having some daylighting of some type for parking of package deliveries.
Oh yeah, that's in this plan. That was maybe it's not in the plan that you're looking at right here. This is an older one.
And a parking garden?
Oh, yeah, the parking garden was a failed plan, but hold on, let me show you what we're doing if I get to a plan that shows you the, I don't know why it's not there. It should have been in there. Give me 1 second, I apologize. There it is. It's on this one. They didn't take it out of the other one. So the loading area you can see there on Farrington Street at the bottom, you see the words loading bay. That's an Amazon drop-off.
Okay.
And with your second question was a parking garden. That idea didn't work. That goes back to the community board's idea originally. They didn't want to see the plaza there for the reasons we just discussed. They suggested maybe a parking garden, which I understand they have one of the botanical gardens, which is a fancy word for saying a lot of grassy area and trees within a parking lot. That we went back to your secret technical review division. That failed the open space analysis, which was required as a part of deficiency in open space in this part of Queens. So the parking garden was out and the plaza's in.
And last but not least, what is the open space that's to the west of your building?
The open space that's to the west.
That little green landscaped area that's adjacent to Farrington.
The little square is probably the Board of Ed's property. It's a little grassy area on their property.
Okay,
That's not ours. We're an L.
okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Rampersad, followed by Commissioners Kermani and Bozarg.
Thank you for the presentation. I had similar concerns as Commissioner Benjamin with regards to the open space. So I just want to clarify, so are you going to be doing 350 units here or 415? Because I know the borough president have,
We've made the commitment to the community to be at 350 units, and that's what we are setting forth. That's not where we're certified, but that was the deal we struck, and we intend to abide by that.
Okay, so the other question, since you're doing that, you're going to have 300 parking spaces. The additional 100 spaces, how are you?
Stackers.
Stackers in the cellar?
Yes.
Okay. And also, there was talk about active playground. I believe I also
That's that area.
Came out. Yeah, so.
There's also another area which we haven't spoken about, which is in the middle. That's a courtyard for the building, just like you would see in most buildings around the city. It's not a play area. It's just going to be a lounge area for people to
So they
take a
can
walk,
sit there.
sit down. Yeah, only for building residents. Yes, so they could sit. Yes, that there will be seating in that area. Nobody's giving me a hard time about seating there.
So they would access it. The people staying in the building would have like an access
key
card to get in.
Yeah,
to get inside.
or they could just walk right in. Whatever it may be. Probably just walk right in.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Kermani?
Thank you, and thank you very much for the presentation. I don't have any questions, just want to align myself with the comments of the Chair and Commissioner Benjamin and Rampersad about the open space, and understanding the Councilwoman's concerns would encourage just to look at SEPTED and design evidence of active spaces actually creating safety and community. So I'm very, very strongly pro benches and places for people to sit.
I'm taking it all in. I didn't realize this would become as opinionated as it is, and I've heard it's been not just at your commission, I'm saying all across the board, the council person, the community board, everybody's got very strong opinions on this. So I will lay it all, and we'll talk more with your legal division and with the council member, and we'll try and figure out something that satisfies everybody's concerns. I think I'm hearing your concerns very clearly.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Bozarg?
Thanks. Echoing these similar concerns, especially when you're bringing 350 new households, there's going to be a lot more eyes on the streets, et cetera. But I actually want to ask about the reduction in units. I would advocate for keeping more units, although I think this trade-off, especially you're going through the effort of building a big building, taking on those costs, those loss of units are real homes that get lost. But I think this trade-off with what it means for the unit distribution is interesting. So would definitely be interested to understand what is gained in the 2s and 3s with this reduction.
Okay.
Thank you. Commissioner Osorio?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. A couple questions. First, building on Commissioner Rampersad's question, and given the vulnerability of the site to flooding, can you talk a little bit about sort of like what happens when you have stackers in the cellar in an area that, according to the materials, it sounds like, part of the plan is that you're going to be combining a flood-proofing strategy with actually, areas that will be inundated, basically. So what's the plan there?
Well, I'll have the architect come back to us with exactly what his plan is, but as is usually the case, the stackers would be lost in a storm, as would whatever vehicles are down there if they were not removed. And but all the mechanical equipment for the building and everything else is located above the flood zone, which is at 13 feet. We're in flood zone AE. And I'll have, I misspoke at the last hearing whether it was dry floodproofs or wet floodproofs on a matter and another matter I had, so I'm not going to comment yet which one it is here. So I'll confirm it, then I'll have the architect draft it.
So fair enough. Yeah, I think that'd be very useful. But also, what's the plan for people who won't be able to take their cars out? I mean, what's going to happen if there is major flooding in terms of what residents will be able to do? I mean,
I guess
they may be stuck.
Yeah, you probably know. I think I've been taught to believe through the last 10 years since Sandy that the cars and those things and commercial spaces would fall victim to the storm, and that other places, residences and the mechanical equipment for that would be protected. And and I think that's probably what would occur here if that were the case. But having said that, this didn't take any water during Sandy. There was no water, so we don't believe we'd be prone to the same issues. And a lot of the flooding that's occurred in the area through the years at the Flushing Airport site occurred through a faulty drainage system, which has been remedied, I understand, right now. So that stopped the water from coming in from Flushing Bay, I think, which was happening at the airport for years.
Thank you. I appreciate the response. I mean, I think that a couple considerations maybe to keep in mind is how to prevent potential dislodgement of hazardous substances if the vehicles flood and if the mechanicals flood, and potentially anticipating how to prevent that from creating additional problems. But the other thing is, going back to and building on the questions around the open space, it would also be interesting to see how is the open space design activated to prevent that type of inundation or to respond at least to the vulnerability of the site. Because I know you mentioned Sandy, but the firm maps suggest that this is going to be highly vulnerable. That's I think something that I would like to see when this comes back. But the other thing is, again, going back to Commissioner Rampershat's question, and just to understand the general response to the board president's comments. So you said that the applicant is not considering the recommendation for the 415, correct?
It's not that we're not considering it. I'm in the middle of two parties. We made a commitment, though, to the community for 350. And that was the deal we struck with the community for their wishes to have the unit count and the car count come as close as they can be to one another.
Thank you. And I just wanted to make sure I could clearly hear that. The other is, what about the affordability requirements or recommendations?
Well, the application is made at 60% AMI. So right now we're proposing, it will be, if I can find my notes here, 113 units will be affordable at AMI option level 1 at 60% out of the 415.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I've got Commissioner Maureen on Zoom, followed by second round, Commissioner Benjamin.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning, Commissioner.
Good morning. I would agree with my colleagues in reference to the seating and chairs at that sort of leg L portion of the park area. I would posit that if you're going to play mahjong and if you're going to gamble, you're going to sit in a grassy area and do that anyway. And I think that not having the chairs and tables there kind of defeats the purpose of having this passive park for the community, which is required. So I wanted to make that statement. My question is, I see that you have sliding gates at various points, entry to this park-like area, the passive park. Who's going to steward those gates and make sure the park is open? What time will the park be open and closed? Is that going to be posted somewhere?
It'll be posted, yes. It'll be dusk to dawn, and the building ownership will be stewarding it. So management of the building will be stewarding it.
Understood. I also, I want to align myself with the comments made by Commissioner Bozard. I mean, I heard the reduction of units, but it'd be interesting to know specifically, since you mentioned that the studios and the ones were being reduced, how many family-sized units we're gaining, because that is something that is needed in these communities. We hear it all the time. So I don't mind the trade-off. I do mind the loss of units because we are in a desperate crunch for affordable housing units. I would ask the applicant to consider still including them at a higher percentage, even though I know it goes above the the MIH. But it'd be interesting to know, again, the before picture of what the 415 are in terms of distribution and what the 350 are at the end. And then my last comment is the parking spot for the delivery, so the Amazon, the UPSs, there's 2 spots there, I believe. Will those be gated off, or those are just park in and out?
No,
back
no,
out,
they'll
front
just
in,
be
back out.
Just front in, back out.
Understood. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Benjamin.
Quick question, is it the gambling that the community objects to, or the game? I mean, if it was chess instead of mahjong.
I can't give you my opinion on it. Like I said, I'm a little caught off guard by the entire thing. I thought this would have been a wonderful idea, and everybody would have welcomed it with open arms. I cannot tell you specifically. You'd have to spend some time with there's a couple of people that are going to come on the phone. I know that they have views, and we'll speak with the council person. But what was expressed to me was just that the parks, sometimes get used for people to hang out all day and maybe have a few drinks and maybe gamble, and that was the concern.
And the open space that's on Farragut, does that have tables and chairs?
The open
Farrington?
space is on Farrington.
Yeah.
No. Let me just double check with you. Well, yeah, that's where the plaza is, on Farrington. I apologize. I thought you were talking about Linden for a second.
And there's no objection to the tables and chairs that's in the little courtyard area?
Inside, correct. The concern expressed is in the public area that's accessible to the general public.
And will this be a Pops?
Not a Pops, but we're going to make it Pops similar. So all the materials are going to be similar to Pops, and all that is going to be governed in a restrictive declaration that we're drafting right now. It's going to be submitting to the department.
Why not a Pops then? That would kind of guarantee public access.
I don't know why it didn't come into a Pops, into
Okay.
an official Pops program. That's a good question. We did not, but all the materials and everything is analogous to, all the building materials and fencing and landscaping is all analogous to a Pops.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Osorio, back to you, and Commissioner Rampersad to follow.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question. To confirm, apologies if I missed it. What's the response to the recommendation for including active playground equipment for children?
I can't give a response because I'm stuck between you and another governing body who has made requests to have nothing in the plaza area. So I'm really stuck between two competing interests, and I'm cognizant of her request. She made that to me quite clear. So I'd be happy to go back to her and discuss the idea of playground equipment in that area and bring that up to her. I'd be happy to.
Thanks.
Commissioner Rampersad.
Just real quick, you had mentioned 113 affordable units, but that's based on the 415.
Yeah, it drops to 97.
97. Okay, that's one. And the last thing, with the roof, will you have recreation area on the roof?
No, it's a green roof. It's proposed to just be a green roof. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And just another basic, I want to paint the picture here. So I heard the reference to Mahjong as perhaps the game that was of concern. Is that what has been articulated as like Mahjong gambling in this plaza?
No, I really just mentioned Mahjong because my mother happens to be gambling every single day with her girlfriends at 80 years old. And
it's pretty popular in the 80 plus
seems to be the pretty.
They have Mahjong clubs now.
Yeah,
that sounds great.
Every day she comes home and tells me about the $10 or $20 she won or lost that day. So, I picked that out of thin air, but that's the idea of the concept. I mean, nobody said there's a roulette table being set up there or anything like that, So I'd have to imagine it's a friendly game of backgammon or Mahjong.
And it would be nothing if you had a plaza bereft of chairs and tables. There's nothing that would prevent people from bringing their own folding tables and chairs to do exactly that, right?
I would think so.
I mean, I do note New Yorkers tend to be
creative,
resourceful, entrepreneurial, independent-minded, and if there's something that they do want to do,
And
they're probably going to find a way to do it.
There's other games also, dominoes, which is very big, and people
I
bring
love
their own
games.
tables all
I'm a
the
big
time.
game person. I enjoy games as good as the next person. Chess is a good game. I happen to like backgammon. But
Okay, we'll mark this as the date that there was an extensive debate at the City Planning Commission on Mahjong and dominoes, et cetera, and their the value. Okay, understood. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I see no other questions for you, Mr. Palatnik, so I'm going to move on to members of the public who also may have something to say about these very subjects. So let me go first to Charles Appelian from Queens Community Board 7, who is with us on Zoom, to be followed by Arlene Fleischman and Eugene Kelty. So, Mr. Appelian, whenever you are promoted and ready here, you can proceed.
Hi there. Good morning.
Good morning. We can.
Great. So our committee board recommendation was a concerted and deliberate effort over numerous years between the board, the applicant, Queens DCP, and the surrounding Mitchell Linden Co-op communities representing 5,000 stakeholders. Our board's a strong advocate of creating residential and affordable housing. And in fact, we've added over 3,100 affordable housing units in our district during the last 10 years. Our goal for Whitestone Lanes was quite simple: eliminate retail, commercial, and community facility use and replace it with housing. Why? Traffic, traffic, traffic. There's a 175,000 square foot Amazon warehouse being built across from the site diagonally. The shopping center to the west has the capacity for another 400,000 square feet of additional bulk. And on the other side of the highway, where Toys R Us, Party City, New York Times, and USPS has a great stretch of land, believe it or not, there's the capacity for 5.5 million square feet that could be built along that stretch. So we knew loud and clear, we don't need any more commercial and community facility uses. And community facility was not brought up today, and I'd like to dwell on that a little bit. The R7A was a good solution to allow larger bulk than currently allowed, but we realized it strictly had to be a residential building to align with our housing advocacy goals and to also ensure much less offensive traffic going to the site. The developer agreed with us to eliminate community facility by a restrictive deck. And by eliminating this guarantees the pre-aforementioned unit count of 350 gets built. Why? Please remember something. The plan that's being presented is illustrative, and a developer could change their mind after approval, and believe it or not, if CF is left in, the entire site could be changed, or a good portion of the site, to a medical center, a school, or any other type of community facility use. That FAR would have to be deducted from the residential FAR, and we'd get much less housing, or possibly no housing on the site. Let's not be fooled by a unit count, 415, 359, 350. If community facility use is left in, there is no guarantee of what housing number is. By combining the agreement with the restrictive deck with the developer of 350 units and eliminating community facility, we guarantee that 350 units will be built, 100% guaranteed. And we feel that's the first time this strategy is being used, and we think it's a good idea. We also went with the 300 parking spaces to go align with the long-standing provision from the board that we want 100% parking in our residential. I'm almost done. You asked about the smaller unit count going from 419 to 350. By the way, what it does is it creates more family-sized units. And instead of having transient studios and small bedrooms,
you're at your time. I'm very sorry. Thank you very much for being with us. We appreciate it. Let me see if there are any questions for you. Okay, there are not. Thank you for being with us. We appreciate it. Oh, and you can also submit the rest of your testimony in writing if you wish, and we'd be delighted to receive it. Let's go to Arlene Fleischman, also on Zoom.
Arlene, you should be able to unmute.
Do you hear me now?
Yes.
We can hear you.
My name is Arlene Fleischman, and I'm the president of the Mitchell Linden Civic Association, representing over 5,000 people who reside in our co-ops. For more than 75 years, we have maintained the integrity of the community by working together. The request for a zoning change from commercial to residential to accommodate the development of a 9-story building on the Whitestone Express Service Road and Linden Place was unanimously rejected by the Mitchell Linden community for years. The building, as designed, was threatening to the safe and secure environment we enjoy. Our concerns include the height of the building, the number of units, the commercial facilities, the parking facilities, and the park area. The families moving into our buildings are escaping the congestion in downtown Flushing because residential buildings house commercial facilities and they lack adequate parking facilities. Today, our families face the same parking problems, but there is a very large shopping center across the street from the proposed development that can accommodate all residents. The location of the is of major concern since it borders Linden Place and the Whitestone Expressway, a heavily trafficked area. Linden Place is a two-lane road, one north, one south, from Northern Boulevard to 23rd Avenue. It is the only road with access to the Van Wyck Expressway, Grand Central Parkway, and Astoria Boulevard going west and south. The Whitestone Expressway going north is a parking lot almost every day, and the service road going north is used as an alternative, creating traffic problems from Linden Place north. In consultation at committee meetings, all parties agreed to the changes made, enabling us to accept the proposal. Again, the request was for a zoning change from commercial to residential. Well, let's just do that. If the original proposal stands, the Mitchell-Linden Civic Association will have no alternative but to disapprove. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Fleischman. I have a question for you from Commissioner Osorio, if you don't mind.
No, I don't mind.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. The question that I have is, thank you. Well, first of all, thank you so much for your time and sharing your thoughts with us. Tell us a little bit what's been the community engagement like. Have you been invited to share your concerns, and what's been the response from the applicant?
Yes, I have been, and I'm also a member of the community board. So I have been at the meetings, and I have consulted with everybody at the meetings, and I have consulted vigorously with the Civic Association and shared all the information from the committee meetings with them.
What's been the response? Are you satisfied with the response?
They agree with everything that I had just stated. They are the ones who are backing on this proposal. I mean, we are very concerned because our community is very congested at the present time. And we can see a building going up there, but with all the conditions that were laid out. And the commercialism is it's going to devastate the community because the traffic in the Whitestone Expressway and the Whitestone Service Road and Linden Place is devastating. I mean, you have to live here to really understand the problems.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And again, thank you, Ms. Fleischman. We appreciate your testimony today.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to Eugene Kelty, also from Community Board 7.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can. Welcome.
Okay. Hi, I'm Gene Kelty. I'm Chair of Community Board 7. One, how do you like my zoning chair? Chuck, isn't he great? He's over 35 years on my board, and he puts all my packages together when we have these zoning issues and we have these big projects. And he really scrutinized what we put down here today. I'll try to make it fast in a nutshell because you don't want to hear repetitive stuff. One, just so we understand something. All my elected officials are invited to all my community board meetings. I'm sorry there was a disconnect with the borough president's office. It's my fault. I guess I should have been more forceful to have his people at those meetings because we explained at the meetings why we wanted the residential component because it was very important with the large commercial district that we have on both sides of our district. It really didn't require the use of commercial districts. If you get your traffic people over there, commissioners, you'll understand that that level of operation at Linden Place has always been level F. If you understand anything in DOT, that is the worst case scenario. Over the course of the years with my first vice chair, Chuck Appelian, we've got the city to put in 2 U-turn over there to knock that intersection down. So when this project came up, we tried to get it with the most minimum impact with traffic at that location. And that's why we went with the residential component. And again, we dealt very closely with the elected officials, especially the 2 councilwomen. And we also made sure that they know that we were looking for maxing out on our affordable housing. As you can see in our numbers in the testimony, we have put in over 3,000 units in the last 10 years of housing in our district. So it's not like we're not paying attention. We are. We're paying very close attention to it. I said I am the longest standing person on our board, and I'll be timed out by the illustrious action by the city council when they passed that thing to get rid of community board term limits. Finally, to answer your question on the public and that public area I think they call it PAA. Just so you understand something, if you go out there, the area we like, I mean, I'm residential community. I'm trying to give them nice views, waterfront, bridges, open space area. You look at that open view area that they're looking at, and it's the back wall of the park of the commercial things. They'll be looking at brick walls. It's not a nice area to look at. That's why we were trying to get rid of that area and make it a usable area. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Rampersad has a question.
Gene, good to see you again. It's been years since the borough board days. I have two quick questions. Has the community board actually received the restrictive deck from the applicant in writing? Have you guys gotten that? I guess you verbally agreed on or during a meeting. I'm just curious.
I don't know offhand. I'm not the office commissioner, but we would require the deck, and if not, it's in our recommendation that they agreed to it. So they would have to go against our recommendation, saying that they agreed to it in the thing. They'd be pretty hard. And Eric has been working very closely on this, Commissioner. I usually yell at him because I tell him I want the A team, not the B and the C team when we get projects like this. So he understands if I bring him in my office and I yell at him if he doesn't give me what I need to make sure that we're protecting the community as maximum thing.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm sorry, Commissioner Benjamin.
One quick question. Thank you for being here, Mr. Kelty. But one of the issues that you may have heard us talk about was the open space. Could you explain the community board's thinking about the open space and the tables and chairs and what the community board's vision is for what that space could be used for?
Okay. I don't think you have all day, so I'll try to cut it down into the what you call. Listen, I'm sorry. I told you I'm 40 years on the board. I've sat as on zoning. I sat on traffic. I sat on DEP projects. The concern about open space area has always been to give to the public what they entitled to. And we also were a little concerned about the developers to make sure we don't put a burden on a developer, because I heard about playground area and stuff like that, but I'm single. I'm a crotchety old person. I'm 69 years of age, and I've went through my life watching my brothers.
I think that's pretty young.
Okay. I've been watching my brother's kids and stuff. I'm an uncle of what you call it, eight nephews and nieces, 7 grandnieces and nephews, and I do watch the kids. And I was in the fire department, and I worked for 39 years in the fire department, and we responded to assist civilians all the time. One of the things I find is people do not watch kids. They all tell you they watch kids, but they don't watch kids. They want you to watch kids. They want the neighbor to watch kids. They want the owner to watch kids. So when you deal with playgrounds, my concern is the burden put back on the owner of the cost of having the insurance on it. We want open space areas so that the seniors can go sit outside, talk, play games, whatever they want to do. But they have that in a courtyard for that. I have property in Flushing that we made, Central District, downtown Flushing. We city planning put in a project with us years ago to get affordable spaces to make the sidewalks bigger. I now have DOT coming in, and they want to put a scooter program in and take my sidewalks away. So you asked me why. That's what I look at. Commissioner, I have 64 park locations in my district. I don't know how many boards have that many, but of the 59, I have 65 park locations, and they have a tough time with the Parks Department to handle that. I have a lot of open space areas, and I have a lot of people that have projects like this that have to maintain the areas. You're looking at a commercial wall. That's what you're looking at across the street. That's not nice to be looking at. I don't want them looking at that. If that was open space, it'd be different. If they could look at the waterfront or the skyline, I'd say you're absolutely right. Put the open space in. They're looking at a brick wall of a Chinese place, of the back of McDonald's, and a few, and they're not leaving. That institute over there is a huge, huge commercial property. So that's why we asked to phase down that part of the public area, and we wanted the central area, which is good for the community, the people in the property, that center square. That's what we've looked for. We always look for open space for our people. And again, right across the street, I have College Point as the sports association. I have a huge park in there. We've been putting a lot of money in to get property for kids to participate and play in. I hope that answers your question in a nutshell.
fine. But are there other things that could be, if it was an active open space, if it was pickleball or basketball or tennis, would that?
Again, my concern, again, is safety of kids, and whether they're adults or children and stuff. Every time you open the paper, there's another young man getting shot on a basketball court and stuff like that. That area that we have is not a great area. It's a commercial area, okay? It's isolated and stuff like that. So, excuse me, if I have a lot of kids playing over there, I'm just concerned about the unsavory characters that might start identifying that area. Right now, when we look at parks that are attached to schoolyards, I had to move the entrance away from the main roadway because our feeling is they could grab a kid and take off on it. PS 79 comes to my mind right away. So now you want to put something over there that's very active and like basketball or pickleball, and that's okay. I understand that, but then it means that they're going to have to leave at nighttime because I heard Mr. Placknick mention about dusk to dawn. And that means we're going to have people being unhappy with dusk to dawn because that's not their right. Their right is to be able to play in there because it's open space area. And I have a problem with that. Why create a problem when I have parks and stuff like that? I'm trying to get my parks fixed up to fix the basketball courts and put more pickleball courts in because I understand that's the newest thing that's coming up. So, but I don't think this is the location for it. I really don't. I think it's very isolated over there, and I think it's going to create more of a problem to us. You asked me about benches before. I can tell you we used to have a problem with the benches in Flushing. I used to have a lot of homeless. We now insist that the benches that anybody puts in, well, again, I'm 69. The people that went to the World's Fair in 64 and 65, they used to call it the World's Fair benches. They had a bench, and there were pieces of the benches that were divided by metal dividers, so nobody could lay down on a bench. They were designed for sitting and being comfortable. And that's the benches that we insist when we put them in at any of our locations now, is we don't want bedrooms for anybody that needs to lay down. I don't mean to be
okay, thank you very much.
I apologize.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you very much, Mr. Kelty, for being with us. We appreciate it, and also, of course, for your many years of service.
Thank you for your consideration.
The fire department, in addition to the community board. That's a lot of service to the city. We really appreciate you.
Thank you for allowing me to testify.
Sure thing. And I will also note that our City of Yes for Economic Opportunity is coming to you, Mr. Kelty, momentarily. We appreciate your consideration of that proposal as well as for housing. Obviously, we know these are big and complicated proposals, and we hope you will give them fair and due consideration. We know you will. Let me note that we have no other members of the public wishing to testify on this item, which is the Whitestone Lanes rezoning, calendars 12 and 13. So we will close the hearing on this item, and I will ask you, Madam Secretary, if we have any other business before us, at least in the part of our public meeting portion of the day's events.
No, Chair Grodnick, there is no other business before the Commission for the public meeting, but I do have some public information to share. For those of you who are unable to or did not wish to testify, you can submit written testimony online by selecting this hearing on the upcoming meetings page of the NYC Engage portal, through DCP's website, or by mailing your comments to City Planning Commission Calendar Information Office, 120 Broadway, 31st floor, New York, 10271. And I'll just note the time for the public meeting ending is 11:07 a.m.
Excellent. And with that, we are momentarily adjourned of our public meeting. So thank you. That meeting is adjourned. And now we will open our special review session. Madam Secretary, let us pick up where we left off on Monday, and let's move to our first item, which I believe is 817 Avenue H, but I don't want to trump you. Go right ahead.
Okay, I'll just note, good morning and welcome to the City Planning Commission special review session for Wednesday, November 1st, 2023. The time is 11:07 a.m. and a quorum is present. The first item on our agenda is a certification of a zoning map and zoning text amendments in Brooklyn Community District 14. Our presenter is Hanif Yazzie.
All right, welcome, Hanif.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for your flexibility, and we know we pushed you and some of your colleagues up from Monday to Wednesday. Thank you for your patience.
Oh, my notes here say good afternoon, so I'll amend that for. All right. Thank you very much. Today we'll be talking about a zoning map amendment and text amendment here for 817 Avenue H. This is an application by the Agudas Council of Greater New York for a zoning map amendment from an R51 C13 district to an R7A C24 district with a zoning text amendment to Appendix F to map MIH options 1 and 2 to facilitate a new 9-story mixed-use building. The proposed development comprises 42 dwelling units, including 11 income-restricted units under MIH option 1, with a total floor area of approximately 55,000 square feet, or 4.6 FAR. Additionally, the development includes around 15,000 square feet of community facility space, 40,000 square feet of residential space, and provision for 20 off-street parking spaces. The project is located in the Kensington Flatbush section of Brooklyn Community District 14 along Avenue H, roughly 2 miles south of Prospect Park. Project area can be situated between Ditmas Park and Midwood to the east and Borough Park to the west. In the 1920s, a number of detached single-family homes were built in the immediate vicinity and along Avenue H. More dense multifamily buildings were constructed through the 30s and 50s until the adoption of the 1961 zoning resolution. Apart from a 2017 apartment building built along East 9th Street within the surrounding R7A district, there has been little to no new construction in the immediate area and no MIH areas mapped nearby. Flanked on either side by Ocean Parkway and Coney Island Avenue, 2 blocks in either direction, the project area enjoys access to several bus and subway lines. Approximately 1/3 of a mile east of the project area is the Avenue H station served by the Q train. The 18th Avenue and Avenue I station served by the F subway line are located approximately 1/2 mile to the west of the project area. These subway lines provide 30 to 40-minute travel times to Coney Island and downtown Brooklyn in either direction. The surrounding area is also accessible by bus service, with the B68 bus running north-south along Coney Island Avenue from Prospect Park South to Coney Island and connecting with many east-west bus lines. The area is home to a number of important religious and cultural institutions, including shuls to the west along Ocean Parkway, as well as a mosque and Kent Theater along Coney Island Avenue to the east. The closest public school, PSK 134, is located 1/2 mile to the north along 18th Street, along with the Kensington Library. The Newkirk Community Garden serves area residents less than 1/2 mile to the north along East 8th Street. East 18th Street, sorry. The project area is located along Avenue H at 80 feet wide between East 8th and 9th Streets, both 60 feet wide. Contains 9 lots, 8 of which are not applicant-owned and consist of 2-story homes built in the 1920s. The 2 homes to the immediate west of the project area along the Avenue H frontage would be included in the new R7A C24 zoning district. The development site contains 9,762 square feet house of worship, as well as local retail, including a laundromat and document services office. When the house of worship is not actively conducting services, the space is used by the Brookdale Senior Citizen Center through a lease agreement. The development site is approximately 12,000 square feet in size and is located on a corner lot. The zoning districts in the surrounding area are primarily residential, with low-density R5 districts mapped to the north and contextual R7A districts mapped to the south, east, and west between Coney Island Avenue and Ocean Parkway along Avenue H. A C82 zone is mapped along Coney Island Avenue, a major retail and commercial corridor about 2 blocks east of the project area. The project area itself is zoned R5 with a C13 overlay. R5 is a low-density district that allows a variety of housing types up to an FAR of 1.25, typically producing 3- and 4-story attached houses and small apartment houses. R5 zoning districts allow a maximum street wall height of 30 feet and a maximum building height of 40 feet. Off-street parking is required for 85% of the dwelling units in the building, but requirements are lower for income-restricted housing units and are further modified within the transit zone. The C13 overlay allows for 1 FAR of commercial space when located in an R5 zoning district. The project area had been zoned R71 from the adoption of the 1961 zoning resolution until the establishment of the Special Ocean Parkway District in 1977. The special district was a response to local concerns about the growth of community facilities in the area. As a result, new community facility developments or expansions were required to comply with the residential bulk regulations of underlying districts. SOPD, a 6-mile-long corridor, covers parts of community districts 7, 12, 13, 15, and 14, and was established with the goal of, quote, promoting public health, safety, and welfare, end quote. As part of this new special district mapping, the project area was rezoned from R71 to R5 in 1977. A 1993 zoning modified the areas adjacent to the project area from R71 to R7A contextual districts to ensure that new development was more in character with the existing multifamily developments within the area. In 2009, finally, the area east of the project area was rezoned under the Flatbush rezoning with the stated aim of ensuring new development better matches the existing build character and preventing the demolition of detached homes. So let's get on the ground here and look at some of the photos of the site. So here we see the view of East 9th Street facing north from Avenue H. You see the development site on the left and the project area. That's that corner condition there. Again, we see the corner here. This is a view of the site facing northwest from the intersection of Avenue H and East 9th Street. This is a view looking south from the development site. So you see some of the built character on the other side of the street. Those are some of those R7A conditions. Again, you see that Avenue H, that 80-foot street with the development site and project area on the right. This is the view facing east, or facing west from East 9th Street. This is a view of the development site facing northeast from Avenue H. You see some of that local retail on the ground floor there. These are the two non-applicant owned lots that are fronting Avenue H on the corner here. This is facing northeast from the intersection of Avenue H and East 8th Streets. And finally, we have the view of Avenue H facing east from East 8th Street with the project area and development site on the left and some of those larger R7A buildings on the right. So the proposed rezoning, to recap, would facilitate the development of a 9-story residential and community facility building, approximately 55,000 square feet of floor area. Again, that's 4.6 FAR, including approximately 40,000 square feet of residential floor area and approximately 15,750 square feet of community facility space. The proposed development will be built 5 feet back from the street line. The proposed building will include setbacks on the 4th and 7th floors before rising to a maximum height of 95 feet. The ground floor will contain an approximately 5,500 square foot house of worship, accessory office space, and the residential and community facility lobbies. The 2nd floor will contain approximately 4,500 square feet of activity rooms, classrooms, a kitchen, and other accessory community facility spaces. The community facility entrance will be located along Avenue H with residential and parking entrances located to the rear of the building. Along East 9th, so the residential and parking entrances are going to be located along East 9th Street. And the community facility entrance will be along Avenue H. The development will contain 42 dwelling units, approximately 11 of which will be income restricted pursuant to MIH Option 1. The cellar as well will contain 20 attended parking spaces, accessory to the residential units, about 5 more than what is required, as well as mechanical and storage space. Facilitate the proposed development, the applicant requests a zoning map amendment to rezone the project area from an R5 C13 zoning district to an R7A C24 and R5 zoning district within the Special Ocean Parkway District. Under the proposal, 4 non-applicant owned lots would have a C13 overlay removed to remain R5 districts. The lots along the Avenue H frontage would be rezoned to R7A along with a C24 commercial overlay. R7A zoning districts are medium-density contextual districts, typically mapped along wide streets where the quality house bulk regulations are mandatory. R7A zoning districts are frequently mapped along Kings Highway and Ocean Avenue to the west and south of the proposed rezoning area, including the area immediately across Avenue H and East 9th Streets. The maximum residential FAR in the R7A zoning district is 4.6 with mandatory inclusionary housing. R7A zoning districts also allow up to 4.0 FAR for community facility use. Off-street parking is required for 50% of market rate units and not required for income-restricted units and waived if fewer than 15 spaces are required. C24 overlay, which is being proposed, is a commercial overlay district generally mapped over residential districts along streets that serve walkable local retail needs. Typical retail uses include neighborhood grocery stores, restaurants, beauty parlors, and so on. And when they are mapped on R7A districts, the C24 zones allow for commercial FAR of up to 2.0. One parking space is required for every 1,000 square feet of commercial space. The second action proposed is a zoning text amendment to amend Appendix F to designate the project area as an MIH area with options 1, where 25% of units must be set aside for income-restricted housing at an average of 60% of AMI, and option 2, where 30% of units must be set aside for income-restricted housing at an average of 80% of AMI. The applicant plans to pursue MIH option 1. Pursuant to Local Law 78, this application requires a racial equity report on housing and opportunity because it would increase the permitted residential floor area by at least 50,000 square feet. The applicant states that the proposal would produce new income-restricted housing units in a location that has low income and is highly accessible to transit and jobs. You can see here the median household income for Flatbush and Midwood is approximately $66,000 a year. Between 2017 and 2021, an estimated 54% of households were rent-burdened in this area, and 30% were severely rent-burdened, meaning they spent 50% or more of their income on rent. Population of Community District 14 is predominantly white, non-Hispanic, at about 40%, followed by Black non-Hispanic at 27%, followed by Asian and Hispanic populations at around 15 and 13%. Between 2010 and 2020, the area's Asian population increased by 39%. The area's white population increased by 2%, Hispanic population decreased by 2%, and the area's Black population decreased by 17%. To conclude, the applicant is seeking a zoning map amendment from an R51 C13 district to an R7A C24 district with a zoning text amendment to Appendix F to map MIH options 1 and 2, to facilitate a new 9-story mixed-use building with 42 dwelling units, including 11 income-restricted units under MIH option 1, as well as 15,758 square feet of community facility space, 40,000 square feet of, or 40,000 for residential, and provision for 20 off-street parking spaces. That's all for me today. Look forward to your questions.
Great. Thank you very much. Just a couple from me before I go to my colleagues, starting with the Vice Chairman. R7A here on Avenue H, it is present. Can you just say a little bit more about that?
Yes, it's present on 3 sides of the proposed development. So we can see it's on the this side. This is the sort of East 9th Street frontage, on the East 8th Street frontage, and you see this kind of peninsula of R5 sort of jutting into sort of an ocean of R7A in the surrounding area.
And this is the peninsula, this site in question?
Indeed.
Right. Okay. And then the relevance of its being, the development site being in the Ocean Parkway Special District. Can you say a little bit about how that affects this development site? My understanding is the restrictions for that particular special district relate primarily to community facilities, but if you could just say a little bit more about that.
Yes, that's correct. The bulk regulations of the underlining districts apply to community facility spaces, but we checked in internally, and there won't be an impact on this site. So for this location, there won't be an impact. The community facility FAR here is going to be about 4.0 in this area.
Okay.
But I can circle up with more detailed dive, into those SOPD regulations.
Okay, that's good for now. Thank you. Let me go to the Vice Chairman.
My question is, with regard to the rezoning, would encompass the entire block front, including the two smaller parcels on the corner, the two single-family homes, right?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
In which case, they would then become, upon a rezoning, pre-existing non-conforming, right?
No, they're within the envelope. Their development potential would be increased, but they would continue to be conforming uses. Like they're smaller than what would be.
Well, yeah, that's right. Okay. R5s as opposed to R7s. Okay. So, right, they wouldn't be negatively impacted in terms of mortgages and et cetera.
That's hard for me to speak to, but all I can say is that they won't be non-conforming.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Or non-compliant.
Thank you, Commissioner Dweck.
How far down East 9th does the C24 overlay go on East 8th?
Yes, it goes right up until the northern boundary of that pink line there you see on the development site.
So is that about 100 feet or?
I believe it's 100 feet. I'm not sure exactly the measurement there, but I know that it encompasses the development site and those two homes, but the C24 overlay will not include those homes in the rear. So for that area, the C13 overlay will be removed, and those homes will be R5 only.
R7?
Well, the area right now, that entire area is zoned R5 with a C13 overlay, the entire area that's within that blue sort of boundary. We can go to the, yeah. Let's see. Where was the zoning change? Somewhere. Understood. Keep going forward. There we go. So we see that the lots on the Avenue H, so the whole area is zoned R5. The lots on the Avenue H frontage will be rezoned from R5 to R7A with a C24 overlay. The lots behind the Avenue H frontage will remain R5, just with the C13 overlay removed.
I got it. So we're actually, I wouldn't say down zoning, but perhaps down zoning. Removing an overlay from the lots on the.
Indeed. Yeah.
Got it. I understand. Thank you.
Commissioner Sir.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for the presentation. Can you talk a little bit about the land use, well, the rationale for the parking decisions, and exactly how many of the parking spots will be for the residents, and how many of them will be for the community facility and commercial?
My understanding that the commercial parking requirement is 1 per 1,000 square feet of commercial space, and then 50% of the market rate units, the residential units. But I have to circle up with a more precise parking breakdown, and the applicants can speak to it as well. It's my understanding that there's 5 more parking spots than the residential portion would require, but I have to look into whether the 20 parking spots that are proposed include the commercial requirement as well.
And all of the 20 will be in the cellar, right?
Yes, all 20 will be attendant accessory parking spaces in the cellar.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, it would be great to get a little more info.
Yes, of course.
Thanks.
Anybody on Zoom? Great. Thank you very much. This item is certified, and we'll look forward to picking up with you through the process. Let's move on to the next item.
The second item on our agenda is a certification of a zoning map amendment in Brooklyn Community District 6. Our presenter is Emily Bachman.
Hello, Emily.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, this is the certification presentation for 41 Richard Street rezoning. The applicant, 54 Richard Street LLC, is seeking a zoning map amendment from M11 to M15 in the Red Hook neighborhood of Brooklyn Community District 6 to facilitate the development of a new 7-story, 86,000 square foot mixed-use development containing 66,000 square feet of light manufacturing uses, 16,000 square feet of commercial office space, and 3,000 square feet of ground floor commercial retail. The project area is located in the northern portion of the Red Hook neighborhood of Brooklyn. Red Hook is on a peninsula bounded by Buttermilk Channel to the west, the Upper Bay of New York Harbor to the south, Gowanus Bay to the east, and by Hamilton Avenue, the elevated Gowanus Expressway, and the entrance to the Hugh L. Carey or Battery Tunnel to the north. Existing land uses in the surrounding area are primarily industrial, manufacturing, transportation, and utility uses, with limited residential, commercial, public facility, parking, and vacant uses. Industrial and manufacturing uses are located in 1 to 6-story warehouses and include food production, auto body shops, steel fabrication, window manufacturing, storage, and transportation and logistics firms. Residential buildings are primarily 2 to 4-story single, multifamily, and mixed-use row houses, as well as 1 industrial to residential loft conversion that I'll speak about on following slides. Commercial uses consist of 2 hotels, as well as ground floor restaurants and offices in the mixed-use townhomes along Columbia and Van Brunt Streets. And public and community facilities include an FDNY fire station, a church, and a school. The project area is 2 blocks north of Coffey Park, an 8-acre neighborhood park featuring green space, benches, play equipment, basketball and handball courts, and an asphalt baseball diamond. And the project area is located in an M11 district that spans roughly 24 blocks of Red Hook and the Columbia Waterfront District to the north, and which hasn't changed since 1961. M11 is a low-density manufacturing district with high parking requirements that permits industrial and commercial uses up to an FAR of 1.0, and certain community facility uses up to an FAR of 2.4. M11 districts allow for a base height up to 30 feet, after which building heights are governed by the sky exposure plane. There are a few previous zoning and policy changes in the surrounding area to note. First, in 1996, the Community Board 6-197A plan for Red Hook was approved, covering the area outlined here in pink, the whole neighborhood of Red Hook. The plan sought to balance dual goals of increasing housing supply while preserving and growing the neighborhood's industrial economy, and proposals included a mixed-use zoning study, increasing public waterfront access, and truck route modifications. In 2002, the block highlighted in orange on this map was rezoned from M11 to R6 to facilitate the redevelopment of 4-story factory lofts into residential apartments containing 102 rental units. And the project area is located 1 block outside of the Southwest Brooklyn Industrial Business Zone, or IBZ, shown here shaded in purple, which spans Red Hook's industrial waterfront and extends to Columbia Waterfront District to the north and Sunset Park to the south. The IBZ was established in 2006, and tax credits and other city-based programs to support industrial businesses are available in that area. The proposed development is located within the AE zone in the 1% annual chance floodplain in both the 2007 effective flood insurance rate maps and the 2015 preliminary insurance rate maps. It's therefore required to comply with Building Code Appendix G, and I'll discuss the proposed building scale flood mitigation features later in the presentation. The project area is also within the bounds of the Red Hook Coastal Resiliency Project, also known as the Red Hook Integrated Flood Protection System. This is a public project with city, state, and federal funding that's aimed at reducing flood risks due to coastal storm surge and sea level rise along Red Hook's waterfront and throughout the neighborhood, with a passive system providing flood protection to an 8-foot elevation and deployable features activated ahead of a storm, providing flood protection to an elevation of 10 feet. The Red Hook Coastal Resiliency Project includes a few ULURP actions, changes to the city map and acquisitions to facilitate easements, and is on track for certification this winter, so you'll be seeing more of this soon. And construction is currently anticipated to take place from 2025 to 2027. Okay, here we're looking at the project area, looking south. On the left, you can see the Battery Tunnel, Hamilton Avenue, Gowanus Expressway. Those roadways hinder pedestrian access between Red Hook and other neighborhoods to the north, but their proximity to the project area does provide excellent access for vehicles to and from the development site. The entire block immediately north of the project area is utilized by MTA bridges and tunnels and features one-story buildings and surface parking immediately adjacent to the Battery Tunnel. There are a few historic loft-style buildings with similar bulk to the proposed development in this view. The 75-foot building labeled Monarch Luggage Factory Loft is the industrial to residential conversion I mentioned earlier, facilitated by the 2002 rezoning. And then 80 Richard Street is a 95-foot tall building that maintains industrial and mixed uses, or industrial mix of uses, including various maker, film, and artist studios. In this view, you can also see the NYCHA Red Hook houses, developed in 1938, which are located to the southeast of the surrounding area in an R5 zoning district. Red Hook Houses development is the largest NYCHA development in Brooklyn, with over 7,000 residents living across 55 buildings, which range in height from 56 to 141 feet tall. And while this application does not require a racial equity report, the department staff would like to note that 70% of Red Hook's 11,000 residents live in NYCHA Red Hook houses, where median household income is below $30,000. All residents are renters, and 96% of residents are Black or Hispanic Latino. In the remainder of Red Hook's census tracts, median household income, in contrast, is $115,000. 25% of residents own their homes, and 60% of residents are white. The surrounding area is served by the B61 bus, which provides service between downtown Brooklyn, Cobble Hill, Red Hook, Gowanus, and Park Slope, and has both north and eastbound stops on Van Brunt Street, at Commerce and Sebring Streets. A city bike dock is located 2 blocks south of the project area on Richard Street between Delavan and Verona Streets. A New York City ferry stop is located half a mile to the west at Atlantic Basin and provides service between Bay Ridge and Lower Manhattan. And the nearest subway stations are the Smith and 9th and Carroll Street subway stations, which provide F&G train service and are both just under a mile away. Getting from Red Hook to those subway stations requires crossing under the elevated Gowanus Expressway, either at grade across Hamilton Avenue's 7 lanes of traffic or over the Hamilton Avenue footbridge at Lucre Street, which is highlighted here in yellow. Here we're looking east toward the development site, which consists of 2 applicant-owned lots at 37 and 41 Richard Street with a total of 16,500 square feet. Lot 13, closest to us in this view, is a corner lot with frontage on Richards and Commerce Streets and is currently improved by a 1-story building occupied by an auto dealer and truck parking company with 8 employees. Lot 20 is an interior lot with frontage on Richard Street and is currently improved by a 1-story building occupied by a bakery business with 10 employees. The lots that are included in the project area but not part of the development site are Lot 22 and a portion of Lot 25. Lot 22 is occupied by the FDNY Engine 201, Ladder 101, Battalion 32, and Lot 25 features a 4-story hotel constructed in 2009. Other uses on the block include a tree service company, cheese manufacturing, event space, metal fabrication studio, and warehouses and open storage. Here we are looking at the development site from the Commerce Street frontage, where you can see the existing auto parts business, curb cut on Commerce Street, and then in the distance, the FDNY station on the left and the existing hotel on the right. Now, standing on Richard Street, looking south
toward the project area, you can see again the FDNY station on the left and 2 one-story warehouse buildings included in the development site. The bakery is the building with the green garage door, and the auto parts business is the building beyond. And one more view where you can see again the FDNY station on the left, parking on the sidewalk, which is common on this block, and 3 examples of historic industrial lofts constructed before 1961 that could not be built today under today's M11 zoning. First, moving from close to far, is a 3-story brick building on the corner that houses an art gallery and event space. The white building beyond that at 4250 Richard Street is a 3-story, 42-foot tall building, which houses a furniture design studio, construction business, and painting studio. And then the gray building in the distance is 80 Richard Street, which I mentioned earlier, a 6-story, 95-foot tall industrial loft building, which houses various maker, film, and artist studios. And the applicant points to that building in particular as a successful industrial development and a model for the types of uses that could be included in the proposed development. The proposed development is a 7-story, 100-foot tall, non-residential mixed-use building, primarily dedicated to light manufacturing. The applicant is the owner of the development site and the developer for the proposed project. He's a longtime Brooklyn industrialist with companies that specialize in fabricating and servicing mechanical equipment, including ship parts, movable bridge machinery, and rolling and sliding gates. The applicant's core purpose and vision is to bring manufacturing and industrial uses back to the Red Hook community in the form of light or boutique manufacturing, and to create new opportunities for startup and small businesses to remain in New York City. The proposed development would feature 66,000 square feet of light manufacturing, 16,000 square feet of commercial office space, and 3,000 square feet of ground floor commercial retail, and is expected to generate approximately 140 jobs. Here is a view of the proposed development looking south on Richard Street, where you can see the proposed ground floor retail, as well as first floor screened parking. And now looking west on Commerce, the proposed building would rise to a base height of 75 feet before being set back 20 feet and rising to a maximum building height of 100 feet. Retail entrances would be located on Richard Street, while the Commerce Street frontage would feature 2 curb cuts, 2 double-height loading docks, and entrances to the accessory parking, as well as a pedestrian entrance for the commercial and manufacturing tenants. And while no parking is required, the applicant proposes to include 41 accessory parking spaces, which would be screened and located on the ground and first floors to accommodate the proposed workforce. The proposed development is primarily dedicated, as I said earlier, to manufacturing uses, highlighted here in purple. Proposed uses for the manufacturing space include those from use groups 11, 16, and 17, including the manufacturing of textiles, ceramics, graphic arts, custom furniture, food, and baked goods. The proposed commercial office space is intended to serve the business needs of the manufacturing activities on site and include uses from use groups 6 and 9, including design and architecture studios, marketing and advertising firms, art printing, showrooms, and logistics and distribution firms. For the ground floor retail space, the applicant proposes to include space for the sale of products manufactured on site. Given the proposed development's location within the 1% annual chance floodplain, it is required to comply with Appendix G of the building code. The development site has an elevation of 7 feet, and the 1% chance flood height or base flood elevation based on 2015 preliminary flood insurance rate maps is 12 feet or 5 feet above grade for this site. Design flood elevation is 13 feet or 6 feet above grade. And the ground floor is therefore considered a cellar for the purposes of building code and includes parking and loading areas which would utilize wet floodproofing, as well as a lobby, elevators, retail uses which would utilize dry floodproofing. The applicant plans to utilize a waterproofing membrane encompassing structural elements to an elevation of 20 feet or 13 feet above grade, which is intended to stabilize and rust-proof the structure should it be exposed to saltwater flooding. They state that dry, flood-proofed walls will be designed with structural capacity to resist 20 feet of seawater, and that glazed curtain walls will utilize demountable floodgates, which can be deployed in 1-foot high increments to an elevation of 20 feet or 13 feet above grade. All building services, plumbing, electrical, emergency power, and HVAC would be delivered from the first floor above the floodplain, and all drains, toilets, and sumps will be pumped to the first floor to mitigate internal flooding from potential sewer backups. The applicant is requesting a zoning map amendment from M11 to M15. The proposed area to be rezoned spans the eastern frontage of Richard Street between Sebring and Commerce Streets to a depth of 125 feet. The existing M11 district is a low-density district that permits industrial and commercial uses up to an FAR of 1.0 and certain community facility uses up to an FAR of 2.4. M11 districts allow for a base height up to 30 feet, after which building heights are governed by the sky exposure plane. And M11 districts require 1 parking space for every 300 square feet of commercial use and 1 space for every 1,000 square feet of industrial use. The proposed M15 district is a medium-density manufacturing district that permits industrial and commercial uses up to an FAR of 5.0 and certain community facility uses up to an FAR of 6.5. M15 districts allow for a base height up to 85 feet, after which height is governed by the sky exposure plane, and parking is not required in M15 districts. And in summary, the applicant is requesting a zoning map amendment from M11 to M15 to facilitate the development of a new 7-story, 100-foot tall, 86,000 square foot non-residential mixed-use building primarily dedicated to light manufacturing in Red Hook Community District 6, Brooklyn. And I'm happy to take questions.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Before I go to Commissioner Benjamin, let me just sort of connect this for a moment to what we just did on Monday with our economic opportunity proposal. Obviously, as part of that plan, we're introducing some new tools for manufacturing districts. I don't know if this applicant considered waiting to take advantage of any of those tools or what their thought was, or if you have a sense of that.
Yeah, so this application has been in the works for many years, well before zoning for economic opportunity was even beginning to be a proposal. So I think the first thing there is that they put in a lot of work, time, money, effort. They have found a way to facilitate their project with our existing zoning tools, which is a difficult task. It took a long time, and they're eager to move forward. Yeah, and I think that the zoning for economic opportunity proposed new zoning tools would make this kind of project easier to facilitate, a more straightforward process to find the right tool for the project and to make it happen.
Is there one of those tools that you think would have best facilitated this development here? Which one would have been the best potential match for this proposal?
There are a couple that would facilitate it. I think the one to point out is the new M1A4 growth tool, which would facilitate this project and provide a similar FAR, same FAR. The M15 that they're proposing provides more flexibility on the building envelope than the new tool, which has a maximum height. But the proposed development is still under the maximum height even for that growth tool.
Thank you. Commissioner Benjamin.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you very much for the presentation, and I would really like to thank the applicant because I think this is one of the most exciting projects we've seen in quite a while of someone actually looking at a manufacturing area and trying to expand and provide new opportunities to manufacturers. Usually what we've seen is incursions on the manufacturing from either commercial or community facilities, particularly city community facilities. So I'm very excited by this, and I hope somebody would tell the applicant how excited we are to see manufacturing grow in a manufacturing area in an IBZ that we've laid out as a growth area for manufacturing. So that's number one. I really am excited by this project. My question, though, has to do with, you stated that there were 2 business entities located on the site, one of which is a bakery with 10 employees, and the other has 8 employees. Will they be relocated? Will they be coming back to the site? Is that something you know, or you can ask the developer? Because given that it's manufacturing, staying manufacturing, they're looking at bakeries, I would hope that they would be looking for a way to retain those tenancies in the future when the building is built.
Yeah. I think, well, first I'll say the applicant is in the room, so your compliment is, I think, well received. And that I'm going to let them speak to the plan for the existing businesses when they come back for a public hearing.
Okay, well, I would just then want to say that I would be interested in them making that effort and coming back to us with a successful resolution of what is happening to those 18 jobs and those 2 businesses.
Noted. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Benjamin, Commissioner Kermani, and then Commissioner Osorio.
Thank you, and thanks so much for the presentation. I first really want to thank you and the department for going deeper into the demographics of the area, even though it wasn't required. I think it's really important that that context is part of the narrative of a community, both written and spoken. And so thank you for doing that. And I also second what Commissioner Benjamin said about the excitement of bringing manufacturing to an IBZ that is there. So that's very exciting. And then my question or comment relates to the NYCHA developments and the residents who are there, and would really encourage the developer to create a relationship with the residents there in terms of filling those 140 jobs, but also that there may be residents who have experience in manufacturing themselves and could also be tenants. So I think it's also important that we look beyond a narrative of what NYCHA residents are capable of doing and are doing, and expand opportunities to them, not based on our assumptions.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Osorio.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. I also share the excitement, and I specifically wanted to commend you for mentioning the 197A plan. I have a couple comments on that, but I really appreciated that. I think that this proposal is also aligned with what the community board had originally, envisioned there. I would highlight and connect Commissioner Carmani's comment with the 197A, because you say that this is it was both intended to preserve and maintain affordable housing and grow industry, but what Commissioner Carmani is saying is actually part of the plan, to employ people from public housing in the manufacturing sector. So anyway, kudos on that. I also was very impressed with the detailedness of the analysis in terms of the vulnerability to flooding and the plan to respond to that. I was pleased with that, and also, to the chair's question, I was also very pleased with the land use rationale described to pay for this type of plan and to assume or cover the costs of developing industrial in this part of the city. So my questions are building on a couple of these points. First and foremost, I wanted to understand, I didn't see in your list of existing initiatives, how does this relate to the comprehensive waterfront plan and the vision for this part of the working waterfront, given the proximity to the SMIA and so forth, although this is outside, as you pointed out, it's outside of the IBC, but hearing the industry sector that the applicant works in, I would be really interested in understanding whether there's a component or a potential service to maritime that can specifically focus or help us understand the type of manufacturing uses that will be marketed for. Anyway, having said that, the other initiative that I would love to hear more is, given the proximity to the BQE corridor, I want to understand how does this building fit into the larger vision that DOT is working on for the BQE corridor vision, understanding that that's a work in progress. But I think that this is the time to begin to connect how private applicants are understanding and taking advantage of some of the initiatives that may be in the pipeline. So I think that would be very useful. And a couple other, now two quick questions. The first question is, you had it in the report, and I was excited about it, but you didn't mention in the presentation. There is an intent to include backwater valves as part of the potential mitigation strategy to prevent from spills and hazardous substances to leave the building if there's inundation. Is that still the plan?
I believe so. I believe that's in the EAS.
Well, yeah, I want to understand a little more. Maybe when we hear again from the applicant, it would be interesting to understand that. I appreciate that, and in the context of that, it would be actually super interesting to understand what is the plan to comply with DEP's right to know regulations, requirements, given the location of the project as a manufacturing building within the floodplain. The other thing, and so again, I understand and appreciate the clarity in terms of the land use rationale, meaning cross-subsidizing or having mixed uses to subsidize expanding manufacturing. I just want to understand a little bit more. What are the type of tenants that are going to be attracted for the commercial uses? There's some language in there about predominantly land use group 6, which makes sense. But in terms of land use group 8, group 9, I want to understand sort of like what are we talking about? And specifically, you mentioned logistics support services. And I want to understand if the idea is to have a last mile distribution facility here or not. So that's a specific question. But again, I was just very pleased with what I've mentioned and look forward to hearing more on all of these items as this comes back.
Great. I think there are a couple things there that I can respond to immediately. The logistics support services idea is, my understanding is that it's about a small maker doesn't necessarily want to or have the capacity to deal with like packaging and shipping the things that they're making to customers. And so there's a need in that industry for these third-party logistics companies. It's not about last mile distribution. It's about like logistics of supporting a small business. And I think the traffic impact related to this is more about like bringing in large shipments of raw materials and then like just daily workers coming to the location and shipping out finished products to the local market, but not a last mile facility.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Was there anything else there that I can respond to immediately? I don't believe so, but those are all really great questions that look forward to looking into more. Thank you.
One last thing for the list.
Yeah.
You mentioned, and it's very clear why, like how parking is not required, but you intend to incorporate additional parking lots. And I think it makes sense. Just additional information on the rationale for that would be very useful.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, thank you very much, Emily. This item 41 Richard Street is certified. So thank you. Congrats.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to the next.
The third item on our agenda is a non-ULIP referral of a zoning text amendment in Manhattan Community Districts 10 and 11. Our presenter is Trevor Lovitz.
All right, Trevor, welcome.
Good morning, Commissioners, in the early afternoon. This is another application that would theoretically be impacted by City of Yes, but housing opportunity. This presentation will detail a non-ULURP zoning text amendment application by a private applicant to modify parking regulations for R6A districts within the special 125th Street district. The owner of two adjacent vacant lots on West 124th Street between Lenox and Fifth Avenue in Harlem, Manhattan Community District 10, intends to pursue an as-of-right residential development with 33 rental units arranged in a shared housing concept. Under existing R6A regulations, parking spaces equaling 50% of residential units are required to be provided in new residential developments. Consequently, the developer would be required to provide 17 parking spaces in the new development. The applicant proposes an amendment to the zoning resolution, which would make the parking regulations of R72 districts applicable to R6A districts within the special 125th Street district. These modified requirements would enable the applicant to waive parking at the development. The zoning text would apply to three unique R6A districts within the special 125th Street district. These three districts form the project area. All three districts are located between 124th and 126th Streets, from Lenox Avenue in the west to Park Avenue in the east. This traverses both Community District 10 and Community District 11. Land uses within the southernmost R6A district, which encompasses the development site, which you can see on the map here, fronting Marcus Garvey Park, generally consist of three-story pre-war walk-up buildings interspersed with larger post-war multifamily elevator buildings and community facility uses, notably the Harlem Library, which is immediately adjacent to the east of the development site. The two northern R6A districts, which are both mapped along the south block of 126th Street, are more consistently improved with pre-war three-story brownstones and row houses, which feature consistent street walls, stoops, and cellars. Commercial uses predominate along 125th Street, of course, and generally consist of pre-war 3 to 5-story residential buildings containing neighborhoods serving ground floor retail and mixed-use developments of greater bulk and height. In the vicinity of 125th Street and Park, there are several large vacant lots on which sizable mixed-use developments are planned, and some of which would incorporate transit easement volumes for the 2nd Avenue subway extension. You can see shaded in light gray on this map the boundary of the special 125th Street district from 124th to 126th and from Broadway to 2nd Avenue. The special district was created in 2008, and in addition to establishing new height, bulk, and use regulations and an innovative floor area bonus for visual and performing arts uses, the rezoning contextualized underlying zoning in most of the special district. In the case of the development site, it mapped R6A zoning, replacing an R72 district. While the intention of this was to protect the built form of 125th Street and the adjacent blocks, this also had the effect of introducing greater parking requirements than what had existed previously. All three, you can see also in a darker shade of gray, the three sub-districts, the core sub-district, Sub-District A, that's to facilitate the National Black Theater, and the Park Avenue Hub Sub-District. The development site is not located in these sub-districts, nor are any of the other R6A districts. R6A districts are contextual districts. They allow residential and community facility uses up to an FAR of 3. They have a minimum of 40-foot and maximum of 60-foot street wall, above which a minimum setback of 10 feet is required from a wide street and 15 feet from a narrow street. R6A developments have a maximum building height of 70 feet or 75 feet with the provision of a qualifying ground floor. I also want to note in this map, you can see East Harlem Corridor's Special District. This was established in 2017. It also introduced a special transit land use district within the special 125th Street district from 5th Avenue to 3rd to facilitate the 2nd Avenue subway extension. It's also important to note here that East Harlem Corridors, unlike the special 125th Street district, exempts off-street parking requirements in new residential development, whether the units are affordable or market rate. Here's an aerial of the surrounding context. You can see multiple LPC designated individual landmarks called out here, including the Langston Hughes House, the Mount Morris Bank Building, and the previously mentioned Harlem Library. You can also see the Mount Morris Historic District and the adjacent Mount Morris Park District extension located to the southwest of the project area. The project area and surrounding area are within the transit zone and are well served by mass transportation. The Metro North 125th Street station is at Park. Access to A, B, C, and D subway lines is 4 blocks to the west at St. Nicholas Avenue. The 2 and 3 lines are just 1 block west of the site, and the 4, 5, and 6 lines are at Lexington and 125th Street, 3 blocks to the east. The second phase of the 2nd Avenue subway will eventually extend Q train service west to 125th Street and Lexington Avenue. The surrounding area is also served by 10 bus routes. So here are some photos of the development site. As you can see, they are vacant, unimproved tax lots, lots 26 and lots 27. The total lot area is 10,092 square feet. These lots were formerly improved with a 3-story building that was used as a daycare and a 4-story building that was used as a convent. Both buildings have since been demolished to make way for the development. As previously noted, the development site is located on the southernmost of the 3 R6A districts, which form the project area. You can see a bit of the built context in the photo at right, including a new rental development and the Harlem Library. This is a view of one of the 2 northern R6A districts between 5th and Park Avenue. You can see a high degree of preservation here, and the built form consists almost exclusively of pre-war brownstones and row houses. And here is the last of the R6A districts between Lenox and 5th, similar built form to the other R6A district. The applicant is proposing to develop approximately 30,000 square feet as of right residential development reaching a height of 70 feet over 7 stories. The development would consist of 33 dwelling units. Each unit would contain 2 to 3 bedrooms. As noted previously, under existing parking regulations, the development would be required to provide 17 parking spaces, or 50% of the dwelling units. Just a brief note about parking policy. As we know, current zoning exempts off-street parking requirements for residential developments within the Manhattan core. However, in Upper Manhattan, parking requirements apply except in the case of affordable housing. City policy regarding parking mandates has evolved considerably over the decades. Currently, the proposed zoning for housing opportunity citywide text amendment intends to remove parking mandates for new residential construction or enlargements. Believing parking to be unnecessary in this transit-rich neighborhood, the applicant therefore proposes an amendment to the zoning resolution, Section 97-511, which would make the parking regulations of R72 districts applicable to R6A districts within the special 125th Street district. The exact proposed zoning text can be seen here in this dashed orange box, specifically the underscored line at the end. 97-511 speaks specifically to 125th Street parking regulations. This is a breakdown of parking regulations under R6A as they exist today. As noted previously, parking equal to half the number of residential units are required. The amount that can be waived is when the number of spaces is equal to 5 or fewer. Here is parking regulations under R72 districts. They're somewhat similar to R6A in that spaces equal to 50% of the number of residential units are required. However, under R72 zoning, this requirement is modified for zoning lots measuring between 10,000 and 15,000 square feet, reducing the requirement from 50 to 30%. Furthermore, in R72 districts where the number of spaces is equal to or less than 15, the requirement can be waived altogether. So you can see here just a side-by-side comparison of the 2 regulations. The zoning lot on which the proposed development is located measures 10,029 square feet. Therefore, the number of required accessory parking spaces is reduced to 10 or 30%, which is below the threshold of 15, which would enable the applicant to waive parking requirements in the planned development. Here's a look at the project area. Just a note on how the likelihood of other developments being impacted by this proposal. the EAS found through a survey of lots within the R6A zoning districts in the project area, only two clusters of lots under common ownership and measuring between 10 and 1,015 square feet. Neither were considered likely candidates for redevelopment and therefore are unlikely to be affected by the proposed zoning text amendment. Consequently, the proposed development is the only site likely to be impacted by the proposed revision in the zoning text. I don't think this is working. Could you advance it on your end, sir? Oh, advanced through a lot. Oh, there's only 2 slides left. So just finally, what the development would look like without the zoning text amendment. So absent the approval of the proposed zoning text, the development would contain a ground floor vehicular entrance with a new curb cut on West 124th Street, a ramp on the cellar level, and an additional subcellar level, which would contain an automated parking facility for the 17 spaces. Should the applicant be able to waive the parking requirement, the subcellar level would be removed altogether, and the floor area on the ground floor and cellar, which would have been accessory to the parking spaces, would be repurposed as residential amenity space, some of which can be seen in the floor plan here. In summary, the applicant proposes the discussed zoning text amendment in order to waive accessory off-street parking requirements in the planned development. The applicant believes the absence of accessory parking in the development would be appropriate given the abundance of public transit options surrounding the development site. Were a small number of tenants in the development to own automobiles, they would be expected to park on-street or in a local off-street parking facility. Thank you for your time. Happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you very much. And I will note that this is another proposal that would be affected by the city of Yes, and as you mentioned at the top, this one for the housing opportunity proposal, the last one for the economic opportunity proposal. Since they're both sort of live and in discussion, I want to just make that distinction. And the way in which it would be affected is that if we did not have the mandatory minimum on parking here, this project would not need to go through this extraordinary effort to propose a text amendment to apply R72 to R6A within the special 125th Street special districts, and instead would be able to make their own thoughtful determinations here. So let me just make sure that everybody is clear and that I am clear on the action as it relates to the text amendment. So the proposal here is to make that the R72 rules applicable to R6A within this special district. And while the regulations are similar between R72 and R6A, and that they both require 50% parking, it is modified for zoning lots that are of a smaller size, between 10 and 15,000 square feet. Is that right?
Exactly.
And in those cases, it's 30%, not 50%. And that would mean 10 spaces in this proposal, not 17. And if it is fewer than 15, parking can be waived.
Right, exactly.
Thank you very much. I'll be here all week. Excellent. Okay, that's great. Thank you. Let me go to Commissioner Bozard.
Mic drop.
Thanks. I have a question also about City of Yes for housing opportunity. I remember in our briefings, there was also mention of something within that proposal making it easier to build shared housing. Is there any intersect? I don't actually remember what the details of that piece of the proposal is, but is there any intersect beyond the parking with what is in City of Yes for housing opportunity?
Yeah, I remember, I'm not too read up on it, that it's sort of encouraging that emerging typology of shared housing, which is pretty exciting. Yeah. I don't know specifically about the intersect. I could speak more to how it applies to this.
Okay. The only other thing I wanted to mention is a comment. I think when talking about shared housing, I know we're noting it's 33 dwelling units.
Right.
It may be useful to also point out that unlike when we're talking about housing units, that we're talking about many more individuals or households being served by this, so also quantifying that it's not just 33 households, as we might think of when we're talking about housing units, but, you know, up to somewhere between 60 and 90
Exactly. Each
tenants. So I think that's worth, as projects like this get presented, pointing that out, because it's more people that are being served than households.
Absolutely. The target tenant sort of young professional rooming situation, each unit would have 2 to 3 bedrooms, and each would have an ensuite bathroom, and really only the kitchen and the living area would be shared. However, it seems like zoning hasn't totally caught up to shared housing and how it defines dwelling units. So these are still 33 dwelling units as far as zoning is concerned. But the reality, your point's well taken, Commissioner Bozark, is you have more individual units.
Yeah, and just to know, they can't require that it be young professionals. So, and that's a misnomer sometimes with shared housing, that it's just going to serve young professionals. It does.
That's just their marketing material. I was quoting. My apologies.
Thank you, Commissioner Osorio.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. I had a quick question. So, understanding that if approved, the City of Yes would actually eliminate the requirement for parking. In this particular case, where do we see, or help us explain the public benefit of waiving the requirement in terms of, the resources that would be saved? Are we getting additional affordable housing? Tell us a little bit about sort of like what is the public getting in exchange for waiving the requirement?
No affordable housing is included in this development. It's an as-of-right development. So I guess it's probably better for the applicant to speak to, but the main public benefit would be the absence of a new curb cut on West 124th Street and more automobiles on the street.
I think also in the proposal, though, it mentioned there'll be amenity space for the residents. So it's not, I guess, public benefit, but for the residents, there'll be more amenity space and less parking.
Thank you. I appreciate that and look forward to hearing more about that. Thanks.
Great. Thank you very much, Commissioner. Anybody else? Okay, great. Well, that's it. We are going to refer this one out to the Community Board, Borough Board, and Borough President for 60 days. Thank you very much for the presentation. With that, Commissioner Benjamin knows that my estimation skills are strong today. Madam Secretary, is there any other item on the agenda for today?
No, Chair Garodnick.
Okay, well, then I will let you know that I predicted 12:15 as the time we would be ending today. And with that, quickly, we are adjourned. Thank you very much. Pretty good. Pretty good.